Please be advised that I will tell you the facts as I know them. Every word that I will tell you is true. If parts are not to your liking, blame life and sorrow. Do not blame me. Remember, dear listeners, don't hate the playa. Hate the game. I take you now to a roaring fireplace, a rare ray of sunlight shining on a hardwood floor. A professor and his students sit, looking at each other. "We have gotten ourselves into a corner, Professor," said the young student. "I'm not sure we can find a way out of this one, sir." "There is always a way out, Bernard. You just have to see the forest through the trees." "Yes, if there were any trees left, sir." Just then the professor's wife Marie came in with a coffee pill for the men. Her blonde hair flowed as she moved. Her government-issued dress swayed with her curvy figure. Her eyes burned bright with admiration for the man she loved. "You two are very serious in here. Do you know the sun has been out for almost 2 hours? It will set soon, for a week this time. We must enjoy the daylight while we have it." The professor looked at his life with love. Silly, lovely woman, she speaks of sunshine. How lucky for her that she thinks of such things. "I'll leave you boys alone, but please, Bernard, don't keep him for too long. I missed my husband." And she bent down to kiss his forehead as he ever so slightly tilted it to receive it. "You want to watch out for her, Professor, once she knows what we've done or what happened. She might be in danger." "I'm aware of this, Bernard. Please, let us move on to solutions rather than reveling in mistakes." Looking around the room, gentle listeners, you will see relics of a bygone age. iPods, razor phones, clunky computers before they were implanted in human brains. "Why don't we check on them, sir, just to make sure they're still caged?" "Yes, Bernard, let us go to the safe room." The two arrived at the safe room door. The computer asked for voice, ocular, and blood ID confirmation. With such precious cargo, the professor needed to be sure. The door opened to reveal a playground. Not a children's playground with virtual swings and boxes of sand pellets, but a playground for intelligence, the most advanced computer system, and puzzles of unimaginable solutions. The professor checked the room. The rabbits and rats were okay, but something was off. The primates. Bernard began to shake. "Gone, all 3. Bloody hell," swore the professor under his breath. He walked over to the cages. Every titanium superlock was unlocked. Impossible. No one can breach that metal. It was just discovered a few months ago. Bernard was scared, for Bernard knew, dear listeners, of the danger involved when primates pick their own titanium locks. The professor began searching the room, looking for any sign of the hyper-intelligent primates he knew he would never find on his own accord. He created them. He knew better than to think they would be waiting quietly for food pellets. "We have to leave, Professor. We can't stay here. They'll find us. We have to leave, run, hide, go somewhere they don't know about." The professor looked forlornly at his young student. "It is no use, Bernard. They are more intelligent than we will ever be. We cannot hide from them. We cannot run. There is nothing to do but..." And from upstairs, the professor heard Marie scream. Goosebumps popped on his skin like lava bubbles. The 2 men ran upstairs and saw the primates. The apes. Circling Marie. They taunted her with words, for they had learned to speak long ago. They told her they were going to enslave her husband, torture him with her memory, their laughter only intermingled with the disturbing sounds of animals in distress. The professor yelled, "Stop!" and the apes turned to look at him, each ape with his own personality, his own thoughts, his own language. Ape number 1, the most promiscuous of the 3. adorable, he whispered. Let's go lunge forward. No, he yelled at the ape. You may not touch my wife. Ape number 2, the one whose fascination with maritime adventures arose from an ebook reading of Moby Dick.
Seriously?
Starting to lick Marie's neck with a horrible gurgling sound that made her cry out. The professor grabbed him, and out of shock, the ape threw him against the wall, knocking off the professor's glasses. The last ape, ape number 3, stood a bit back, looking apprehensive. He was the kindest and most flamboyant of the apes. But he had grown such a strange head of hair. What happens next, dear listeners, is not for the faint of heart. For the apes, grown 27 more times intelligent, in an experiment run by the professor, murdered Marie right before the professor's eyes. They forced him to watch as they tore her skin from her body. Blood flew as her blonde hair turned red, the beauty of her face now lying on a heap on the floor, separate from her still twitching head. Her sleeves were short as the apes ripped out her larynx. Her happy life ended as they danced on her heart. Bernard was struck dumb, so young and naive, he never believed intelligence could bring such violence. He could no longer speak, but moved his mouth in wordless horror. Ape number 1 teased him. What's wrong, Bernard? Ape got your tongue. Maybe you should be the dumb one now. And with that, the 3 apes hoisted Bernard onto the professor's desk and found one of the old drills from 1,000 years ago and began to drill a hole in Bernard's head. His screams were louder than that of Marie's and more profound as the apes decided to leave Bernard alive, bleeding from his head as he began to babble of chapeaux, sombreros, and berets. The professor moved backwards, unbelievable horror at what he had created. He marveled at his own capacity for seeing the possibilities of the future. He screamed out of agony, seeing Bernard, a bloody hole in his head. He saw the apes in the anger of their slavery, and he dropped to his knees in supplication. Whoa. Out of guilt, fear, shame, and grief, the professor held out his hands to the oncoming apes and begged them for forgiveness, begged them for his life, begged them to spare the human race. The 3rd ape, the one with the kind face and unexplainably multiple bags of confetti, saw the destruction they had created and felt sympathy for the professor. We will help you, sir, but only if you and Bernard help us. And the apes began to build a vessel out of artifacts in the professor's office. They moved fast, faster than lightning, their sureness of purpose growing as their time-traveling machine began to take shape. When they were done, they opened the door and shoved Bernard into the hatch. Ape number 1 stuck out his hand, a glint of understanding in his eyes. Come, Professor Scoresboard. Let us fix the mistakes of the future by understanding the mistakes of the past. And for now, dear listeners, this is where the story ends and begins. What happens now is up to 8 brave humans, one of them exceptionally pretty. Hopefully, the story of revenge will become a story of redemption. No matter what occurs, remember the story of Scoresboard and game show host, how their hubris got the better of them, and let us pray for their release and the saving of their souls.